for faculty affairs at FC. She also serves as Director of Education at Green Church. Do you still do that? Yeah, okay. He holds a PhD in Christian education from Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, completed earlier degrees from Erskine Theological Seminary and Sungshin Women's University. She has extensive teaching and administrative experience in Christian higher education and has served as professor and vice president for academic affairs at East Asia Theological Seminary. She's held roles as associate professor, vice president, and dean at Georgia Central University. She's experienced in curriculum development, strategic planning, and institutional effectiveness. And she's worked with ministry across Korea, the United States, and Africa, so ministries across these countries, and has contributed to scholarly translations and presented at international conferences. Welcome, Dr. Hee-Suk Song, for an engaging session on. So her session is going to be around how engagement can be achieved outside the classroom and how it can be, faculty can keep tabs or calculate the credit hours so that those internship hours or those hours that students spend outside of their classroom, how can they be tabulated and calculated? So I would have loved to attend this session, but I have to leave. But here, over to you, Doctor.
Shukriya. Thank you so much for the introduction. Assalamu alaikum. I'm learning totally Urdu. Thank you and welcoming to my session. Okay, this is about credit hour, definition of credit hour and out of classroom activities. So let me show you some photos. What do you think about this image? Yeah, last Basan, that I participate for the first time in my life. And many others, young people, it's first time. I had really wonderful, happy session in this beautiful weather. And after this, the next week, this is what I am encountered. That I was walking on the campus to see at the time it was job fair at the time, and all of a sudden about 4 or 5 students came to me and they stopped me. And they, give me the mic from their mobile phone, and they started asking questions. Of course, they asked me the permission, right? So they are doing interview to me. And the question is about the Basan experience. So they asked me about my own experience of the Basan and what I thought about that event. And then they asked me, should we continue next year onward or not? And then they also asked me, how about the economic impact? So those variety of questions, they interviewed me, on my way to the job fair about 10 minutes, and then they had a selfie with me, the 5 students. And what they did was, they were students from some kind of business department, of course, and they did this interview with many people as well as out of classroom activities. And I thought that whoever the faculty, the professor was, is very relevant on that. If they use that occasion and finally ask about the economic impact. So they had, interviewed many different people, and then they gather information, have statistical findings, and present all those activities, which I thought was excellent, relevant experience for the students to have as outside of classroom activities. So that's an example that I want to share with you. Relevant example of what out of classroom activities it is. And that activity, that hour they spent, is included learning hour in terms of a credit hour. So today, I want to share this session with you not a few, maybe several objectives. First of all, I want to define what's the credit hour, definition of credit hour, and what is out of classroom activities means, how we calculate them, how many hours should the students spend in this learning, and what's the trends of FC to dealing with this out of classroom activities. Let me ask you, how many of you implement out of classroom activities in your classes currently? Wow, impressive. Do you indicate in your syllabus also? Very well, very well. Yeah. So this survey, they did CLT survey in 2004, about a couple years ago. Yeah, I want to share the trend, how this community think about the credit hour definition and out of classroom activities. So I want to share the findings about that. And also, the next important session is how we develop this 90. Well, I will share with you where the 90 hours, comes from. And then we have to also, as you, most of you share that you implement this principle in your course outline. So we have to think, I also need to talk about this. Finally, most of this faculty is dealing with how do we motivate our students to do the job, to do the work in terms of outside classroom learning. So motivation. And in terms of time management, this is all based upon those findings from the survey. Okay, so I'm going to talk about. And then briefly, we are going to have a Q&A session in the end. If I have time left, I will do some flipped classroom. Okay, flipped classroom or flipped activities. If I don't have enough time, I may do it next time. So, definition of credit hour. Traditionally, we say it's 1 credit means 15 minutes classroom lecturing. That's a previous idea of definition of credit hour. Well, one credit means 50 minutes classroom lecturing, and then I may give my students some homework, readings, exams, and that's it. But the new definition of credit hour that we find at catalog. This is adapted to 2024 following those surveys, right? And then BRO may give you the lecture or workshop about the credit hour, definition of credit hour, and importance of implication of the out of classroom activities. So in the catalog, catalog is our manual. I really strongly encourage you to be friend with the manuals, catalog, and faculty handbook. Okay, it's all available on the website. So this is like a catalog, and the faculty handbook is like a Bible for the Christians or Quran for the Muslims in their life guidance manuals. So in this manual, it says 1 credit hour defined 1 hour and plus 2 hours outside of learning. So this is and means what? You have to have both. What you see, if it's a 1 credit, 1 hour, 50 minutes in classroom with professor, faculty members, we call it contact hour. That's a contact hour, plus 2 more hours outside the classroom, students learn independently. So total how many hours? 3 hours, right? So 1 credit needs 3 hours per week. That means if we have a semester, how many weeks we have? 15 weeks. So what's the total hours the students spend? 3 multiply 15, 45 hours for 1 credit. So that's the credit hour definition. Okay, so clearly have in mind that 1 credit is 45 hours learning. Now with this principle, we can calculate our own 3 credit hours. So this is already done, right? 1 credit hour, 1 contact hour, classroom hour, 50 minutes, right? Plus 2 hours out of class, total 3 hours per week. So 15 weeks total, 45 hours per semester. So here you have some kind, you teach labs like chemistry or life science. You have a lab hour, right? If we have a 1 credit hour lab class, you have to have your students have 45 hours to spend for that 1 credit hour class. So if you teach credit hour course, before we didn't have many two credit hours, but now from the fall 2026, adapting the undergraduate policy 2023 of HEC, we changed some credit hours. Some subjects become 3-hour course, become 2-hour course. Okay, so if you teach 2 credit hour course, its ratio is always 1 to 2. Okay, if you teach 2-hour contact hour, 250 minutes classroom, and then what? Very sure they have to spend 4 hours out of the classroom. So total 6 hours per week. So 6 hours per week means entire semester students have spent 90 hours of learning. Now, most of those classes are 3 credit hours, right? So the 3 credit hour means 3 contact hour classroom, like 3 50-minute session in classroom with the faculty member, professors. And then 1 versus 1 to 2, right? So 6 hours, 3 multiply 2 means 6 hours. Students have to spend 6 hours outside classroom. So total 3 credit hour means what? 9 hours per week. They have to spend in learning, diverse learning. 3 hours classroom, 6 hours independent learning. So 9 hours per week, multiply 15 weeks, how many hours? 135 hours. That's a lot, right? 135 hours. Now, HEC also have this credit hour definition, but in Pakistan, HEC do not much emphasis on this importance of credit hour definition and hour classroom activities. But this credit hour concept is not new. It came out in 1906 or 1909, early 20th century. Have you heard of Carnegie Foundation? Yes. This is from Carnegie Foundation's concept of Carnegie unit. So this is not new concept. But here in Pakistan, we have a 1 credit hour, okay, just 15 minutes classroom. That's it. But HEC already adopted this credit hour definition of total 1 to 2 ratio of out of classroom activities. But actually, it's not very implied the way that it should be. So in FC also, we didn't emphasize too much of it out of classroom activities. It was until 2024 when the NATCH came in here. NATCH, as an American accreditation agency, they talk very much about this credit hour definition. So there is a chance, let me tell you, there will be a chance when they come and visit in October, they will have a faculty interview, and they may ask you about what is credit hour definition, and you have a right answer, right? So you have this right answer, and then they may ask, how do you manage those 6 hours out of classroom activities for the students to learn? So you have to think about it. Now, what if, there's a question, what if my lab course is just 1 credit? So we require 2 hours in the lab. Okay, then this is the formula. 1 credit our lab course requires 2 hours in the lab, means they have another hour out of classroom learning. So it becomes again 3 hours per week and 94 hours per semester. That's how we, adapt this idea. I'm gonna introduce you about the findings from the survey 2024. I was not here. How many of you here in 2024? Yeah, a lot. So have you participated in the survey? Some of you, right? So the survey was done by CLO and VRO, CLT and VRO. As you see here, only 45% of the faculty members participated in the survey. So total number of faculty is 296 and 134 faculty members participated in the survey, and then they have 100% either response. From these findings, 1/3 of our faculty members did not know about this credit hour definition and out of classroom. So 1/3, not at all. And 2/3, oh yeah, I'm aware of that. I know about it, about what 2/3 of the faculty members. And these 2/3 of faculty members who participated in the survey said 80%, they use their own criteria. That means what? They give homework assignments, right? Mostly reading or writing. So 80% of them kind of use this criteria, but they are not maybe spend 6 hours learning program planning. So, what's the top practice? If they give this homework or out of classroom activities, most of them 95% of this reading assignments. Reading is a critical part of our pedagogy, right? Without reading, the knowledge is not growing. So reading, and then research work about 90%, and presentation, whether individual or group presentation, about 32% is presentation and some group work. These are what they do, right? And these are all good, very good. Especially reading assignment is foundational, very foundational, right? Research, more like a higher order of thinking involved. You have to analyze, right, material and synthesize and writing and various other things. We call what? HOT. You know what HOT stands for? Higher order of thinking. Okay, Bloom. So these are all good activities. But the thing is that their reliability or accountability was lacking. How do they do that? How do they make it accountable for the students' learning at the end of the day? And over 80%, there's no parameters of how they assess time commitment. I don't know how many hours I should give the students. How can I engage the students out of activities? There's no criteria. That's why they do their own. 80%. And then about 60%, they do not actually comply with anything. No complication, comply with restriction. That means they give them assignment, they don't check. No assessment. And then about 30% do not even give any feedback. No feedback at all. So that's the practice at the time. So based on also there's another finding that I mentioned here. What are the challenges that you face? Okay, faculty members. Most of them that I don't know how to motivate our students to do the outside the classroom. How they motivate to learn, except those classroom activities. So, and then second challenge was students say, I don't have a time. They say, I don't have time to do this or that. That may be a good excuse. So students' time management is one of the issues. And finally, they don't know how to calculate out of classroom activities. Just as we just mentioned about 6 hours for the 3 credit hour classes. How do we let them manage 6 hours of independent learning as a credit hour defined? So I'd like to focus on this, some of the findings, and I'd like to focus on this and then share with you what I think is important. So 9 hours, right? 90 hours of out of classroom activities that students have to do on their own independent learning. I'm just repeating. So 3 credit hour, 15 weeks. We spend 45 hours in the classroom contact hour, and then 1:2 ratio, 90 hours. 90 hours outside the classroom, total 135. Even in USA, institutions on their syllabus, they have to explicitly mention how many hours they spend in this activity, on that activity. So total 135, have to make 135. They have to clearly explain the hours. Most of the United institution under accreditation bodies. The first thing is first, okay, now, I mean, most of them already are implementing this in practice. So if a new faculty member comes in planning or designing, right? What is the first thing? You design your course outline. We call it syllabus. Do they call it syllabus here? Yes, syllabus. But mostly they say course outline. Yeah. This is a terminology that I'm adjusting. Okay. So if I say syllabus, that means what? That's course outline. The first thing is make a course outline. So most of them already experienced, but some of you new. How many of you just new here, first or second semester? Okay, a few. So have you had a chance to participate in CLT course designing workshop? So you know about the deeping, and then Bloom, right? So in course designing, we have to explicitly indicate what is the credit hour means, and also students have to do the out of classroom activities. This is kind of transparency. We promote transparency to the students. What my expectation is for this course. So it has to be indicated in your syllabus. And the syllabus key element is one. Three key elements. Is it SLO or sometimes CLO, and then learning activities and assessment. So, one of the faculty members used this technical term using what? Integration. When you write or make a syllabus, a course outline, you have to have in mind these 3 elements in integration. Okay, so Xavier, Associate Vice Director of Faculty Affairs, I know that you all have in mind about promotion and contract renewal. So you have to kind of apply for that, either contract renewal or promotion. right? And then you have to have make a portfolios, right? In portfolios, we have three elements: teaching, research, and service. And on teaching side, most important element is your course outline. Okay, in your course, I am kind of finding that some faculty members taught many years and with a good student rating, but their outline, their syllabus is very weak. And that is a kind of a negative impact on the result of your promotion or contract. So in teaching area, your syllabus is very important, well designed. We have three elements all together in integration is very important. So, this is not a session for the course outline, so I don't go too much for this SLO, CLO things. But here, you have to have both in-class activity learning plus 6 hours out of classroom activities also. And just, do not just leave it there. Okay, if you do the homework, that's fine. No, you have to have somehow assess the feedback loop. You have to think about the feedback loop, whether this assessment is related to the learning activities, which accomplish this SLO or SLO. Actually, SLO is the right term because in our pedagogy is student-centered. Am I clear to you, my English? Thank you. Because sometimes I cannot understand some from Pakistani British English. So I'm trying to make myself, my Korean American English clearly. So I try to speak a little slowly so that everybody have a clear understanding. Also, thank you. So here, because our pedagogy is not teacher-centered, our pedagogy is not course-centered, our pedagogy is student-centered. That's what we call student learning outcome. We say it's student viewpoint, but some syllabus, some speakers say, what I do? That's not right sentence. So good sentence is the student will do and that with using verb. Student will understand. Understand is not a good word actually. Comprehend. Student will be able to analyze this. Student will be able to write this and that. So student-centered have SLO. So SLO is a right terminology for the outline, but because HEC has using some department have using CLO, course learning outcome. That's why there's a CLO, but CLO is not the right term. But we cannot do anything because sometimes some department, HEC, have that terminology. So we both use SLO, CLO, but SLO is the right term. And you need to use action verb and then debrief material and the taxonomy. Especially, you have to put the higher order of thinking, like actually knowledge comprehension and application to lower part. And analysis, synthesis, and evaluation is higher order of thinking. But we see application maybe because they think also mention about application. So your activity, the learning activity should in line with this SLO. So SLO you have maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 SLOs for the course, and you have if you have 6 SLO, you need to have 6 assessments. If you have 4 SLO, you need to have at least 4 assessments to know whether this SLO is meet or not. And then your learning activity both in class and out of classroom should comply with all this. So that's why we have integration. Okay, so this is what you need, and this is such a simple learning activity. So we have a in class. It can be a lecture, discussion, or test integration of problems or whatever. you have this in-class session about 3 hours, maybe 50 minutes class session here. And then you divide the 6 hours with two. One important portion is before class, and one is after class. Before class means what? Students may spend 2 or 3 hours to prepare for this lesson. So maybe foundational readings, right? Or watching short videos that relate to this lesson. So it depends on your discipline, depends on your topic. You can spend 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. The students have to prepare for the class. And then after the class, the remaining 2 or 3 hours after the class, your reflection, application, whatever you want to share. So that this is a simple structure. Okay, when you design your course. And the best place I want you to remember 3 words. One is scaffolding, variety, and feedback. Okay, scaffolding means what? You don't just give as a homework. Okay, you read this page. You have to spend 2 hours. Okay, instead of saying that, you may give them some kind of guided question. Okay, from your reading, answer those questions, several questions. But from your reading, why don't you make a question? Think that you are the faculty member, you're the professor, and then you give your students a question. So find or make 3 questions from the reading. So that's scaffolding. You give them some kind of outline, guidance, okay, from their reading. Variety means variety, not just reading. You use different kinds of activities to fill out those 6 hours of outside the independent learning, and then feedback. So the feedback directly relates to the next session, and also this feedback can be an assessment. You assess what they learned those 6 hours of their independent learning. You can give them quizzes. You can also ask them some, Bible, or sometimes you can, have reflections. So those, including those all different kinds of assessments, also used as a feedback tool. So these 3, that's the best practice: scaffolding, the learning activities, use variety of learning activities, and assessment and feedback. So 6 hours. Excuse me. Now, this is another breakdown. How we break down 6 hours outside the classroom. So you have them spend maybe 2 hours foundation or reading. Mostly we cannot go without reading material, the books, textbooks, or commentaries, or some journals, or even recording videos. Okay, so I just simplify the 2 to 2. But you may do that 2 hours to 3 hours. And this part is before class, preparing for the lesson, the classroom lessons. Okay? And then maybe 2 hours this maybe on other hours after class. You can apply, you can have some formative assessment and quizzes, discussion. You can have this discussion forum on Moodle. You utilize Moodle, it's very good learning LMS system. And you can upload all these, and categorize. They spend time, students learn through the Moodle that you have some questions and then discussions and other assignments. And 2 hours summative assessments, like you have now they have a final exams coming on. They need not just 2 hours, they have to spend 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours. So you can also at the time of final exams, you give 5 hours study hours out of 6. So you can vary time to time, depends on the time. And also you have a writing research paper as a final subject. And then they develop those research from the beginning. So you can ask students, you have to spend at least 1 hour every week to build up your research. That's another way. So, like this, it depends on your subject, the topic of the week. Then you divide the hours, 6 hours, this and that. So this is another category that I said, foundational, interactive, applied, and reflective. What HOP stands for? Higher order thinking, right? Higher order thinking. Foundational is, basic knowledge and information and comprehension about the subject area, right? So they can have a critical reading, not just reading, critical reading, as I mentioned earlier, there may be a guided question. We give them a guided question, or some quizzes, or some reflection. Well, what kind of question are you going to bring in? That kind of, foundational. You can spend 2 hours. This is mostly likely for the class, preparing for the class timing. Interactive, this is maybe after class, right? Following up of the lesson that you are giving on classroom. Peer review, discussion forum at the Moodle, right? Give them group project, problem sets. I know you have a variety of disciplines you are coming from, so use this idea, implement it on your own field, of course. Apply also, I see application is HOTs because application is both the pink and the blues, right? Especially your service learning. And your service learning is also linked to their real world. Classroom learnings to link to your real world or job building. Internship or service learning is all linked to the actually career building, real life experience. Like we have here, for example, have school year, like robot school, or we have a daycare center. Now they need some kind of assistance. And if your students have related, some relevant is very important, right? So you're relevant to your classroom teaching to go out do something. Even not even outside community. There are many ways, right? English, or some tutoring, right? So you can use this also as an outside learning activity, a reflective. They can have a journaling every time they have, write a journal. Journal itself later on they became another assessment, right? Or self-assessment. So, this is just an example of how you make some categories of different learning activities that you can utilize in your class teachings. I gave you the sheet about this. You have the industry, you have a foundation. I just listed some good practice of outside, out of classroom activities. So use the variety related to your topics of the session, the classroom session. They use any kinds of these activities, right? And there must be this element assessment. So if you give them reading material, you can have some quizzes or quizzes and exams. Researcher, you have to have rubrics. Okay, in this research, we have to find the clarity, content, some relationship relevancy, or some sort of things that you can make a rubrics for what's the good research paper should be. So if you give them the rubrics, they will have followed that, rubrics as they develop their research work. Webinars, lecture videos, especially, flipped classrooms. Flip means, flip means, right? So usually in the classroom, faculty gives a lecture and lecture learning, and then students go home and they read. Flip these two activities. They do them on their own at home. The content learning, whether reading or sometimes better practice, faculty record their lecture. In best practices, faculty record their lecture and upload in the LMS like Moodle. And students have to spend time listening to the video, the lecture, and some read. They do the classroom activities on their own independently. And they're flipping. They come to classroom and then do other activities like discussion or debate. So that's a flipped classroom. Okay, the home activities comes to classroom, and classroom learning goes to the home, their own learning. They're living it. So if you give them webinars or lecture videos, that's the class actually flipped classroom. And then they come with the idea and learning, and then here you question and answer, debating, discussing, or do some case studies or problem solving, cases. So I hope this help with you, and there should be have assessment. That does not mean that every time you have to give some kind of assessment. You can skip it. It depends on your lesson. Okay. I'll give you another handout. The CLT developed some ideas using technologies. So I didn't write it down because I gave you a handout. You can read it and then you can utilize it in your lesson. Planning. Now this is the worksheet in your outline, course outline and syllabus. Okay. This is a week. Week 1, week number 2, week number 3. SLO. You in the beginning part of your syllabus, your course outline, you have this 5 or 6 SLOs, which is connected to PLO, right? Your program learning outcome in your department, and your SLO should be linked to the PLO, right? So you have 5 or 6 SLOs, and this is your session. Week 3, months, I don't know. You have this session, and whether this first session relate to SLO number 1 or the SLO number 3, you have to indicate here. So in class, you do this 3 hours. Then outside the class, our classroom, independent study 6 hours. Portion of curriculum. This curriculum is directly related to this lesson. And then another hours after class, 3-4 hours, you have to indicate. And then some assessment, short responses, short quizzes. No. So with that in mind, this is made up. I was thinking about, okay, how can I make this is from AI. I asked AI to create this with Pakistan history. This is AI, they generated class. Okay, and so we are just indicating in your classroom. So in the 3 hours classroom, the topic is creation of Pakistan. So students, before they come to this class, they have to spend 3 hours in class. They own their own independent. They can read, they can watch documentary, and then they have to answer from this reading of documentary. Answer the questions, why did the demand for Pakistan emerge? Or what role did the modern New Zealand play? I think I make a very good questions here. So you can use it as a 3 hours out of classroom, and then you have a session. Different kinds of activities in the classroom also. And after class, after class, you can give them choice. Okay? Students like to have choose because they have a different learning style. Different students, because different students have different learning styles, if they give them choice, they will be very wonderful. They will appreciate it. So we can choose after the class activities. Give them a scaffolding here. Now, I want to show you some real example. This is one of our faculty members' syllabus, course outline. I just cut half, 1, 2, 3 sessions. Now, I want you to look at it and share your ideas, whether it's good or bad, or what's the lacking or something. So I have seen some syllabus, but not every syllabus include this. Yes, are you raising your hand? Yes.
Okay, so I think it's a little too generalized. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so I think this syllabus is a little bit generalized as one issue. Second one is that it doesn't really specify which theories to read, which exercises are going to be covered, which critique is going to be there, and how all the different activities are going to be linked together by the end. That's what's lacking.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, even though it has all the elements right here, you have a SLO related right here, and they have topics here inside the classroom, but this topic doesn't say too much. Here, this syllabus have this 6 hours out of classroom activities divided into this, but like he said, it doesn't show specific things. And also he has this assessment area, but this assessment is actually summative, not exactly related to the activities. So it has, this one include all the elements together, but it's not perfect. Of course, we cannot make it perfect. But good thing is, you have this brief summary of things in your syllabus, and then you can use Moodle. Okay, in Moodle, you can have a specifically what your expectation, what they can do. So that's another example is this. So I just cut it here, first week, second week. And he said, it mentions see Moodle week number one. That means what? This person has all the activities necessary guidelines in the Moodle. So this one has also topic, what are they gonna do in-person classroom, and also off-campus means asynchronous means independent study of 6 hours learning here. And here assessment rubrics he doesn't include in this column yet, but later maybe in the Moodle. So I asked Dr. Ghani, Dr. Ghani, who is an expert in pedagogy in our institution, right? I asked how you imply this credit hour of classroom activities. This is what he sent. He outlined the weekly plan for inside and outside the classrooms. This is very important. You should indicate this on your syllabus. Students have to know. They have to know what the expectations are. It's reliability and accountability and transparency in your teaching. So this is a very important part. The credit hour means 9 hours per week. They have to know. Then they stop complaining, because you mentioned it as a very important input, the concept of credit hour. Not just coming 3 hours class, you have to have 6 more hours outside the classroom learning, so 9 hours. And then he put all the things in the Moodle. This is he utilized Moodle, and he put on the Moodle all the assignments, and then discussion board also in the Moodle. This is his screenshot for his lesson plan, indicating, okay, first week, topic is this, in class we do this, outside. So he listed this in his syllabus, our course outline. So they students know, oh, there is something I have to do. And maybe he didn't mention here about assessment, but maybe in the Moodle, So this is just his Moodle shot. You have to click the first week, and then you know everything. What do they expect to do? So using Moodle LMS is very good, excellent in terms of implementing this principle of credit hour. Now, I don't have much time left, so I want to emphasize few things. First of all, transparency and student motivation. This is very important. They have to have a clear mindset. Oh, this course's expectation is this, okay? And why? Okay, we have to motivate the motivation. When we say motivation, it's external motivation, internal motivation. External motivation is like sometimes a word, reward, or sometimes taking out the reward, right? So external. It's like, credit, give you credit, credit. That's maybe external. But internal is we become what? Professional learner. We are growing through this 135 hours work. You're growing as you're academically, how much you grow, mature, prepare for your future. Sometimes the internal motivation needs to be done. This is very important principle of transparency. Then they will not complain because you have clearly said in your course outline. And the habit of consistency. Okay? This is also related to the time management. I will tell you briefly about the time management, how to help our students manage their times. Okay? So 9 hours study is consistent every week. And we also emphasize make this out of classroom activities linked to the real world, like in service learning or internship kind of sort of activities or interview. Okay, and social learning. I like this part. The social learning means it's a kind of a positive peer pressure. Peer pressure is not always bad. Okay, so for good. For example, when students go at WhatsApp or Moodle and they say, wow, 10:30 in the evening they're studying. They may have challenge it. They are very sincerely study this. Okay, let me do a participate this discussion. So this kind of creating peer pressure for good. They call it social learning. Okay? Autonomy and choice. This is a very good part. Instead of do this and do that, you can choose one of these. Follow their own learning styles. They can choose. Have a choice. It's very good for the students to motivate. So finally, in terms of build this habit of consistency, I have this activity. Student take calendar really to check. You have this 24/7 calendar. I hate here a piece of paper. Now, we kind of help our students motivate and manage their time. This is a good practice. I think it's good for me too. To have I have 24/7 right per week. So how many hours do you have? 1
hours.
Yes, 6 hours, right? Now, think about that. Our students have 4 classes or 5 classes. 4 classes means 12 credit hours. 5 classes means what? 15 credit hours per week. So you give them this time sheet and then let them block out 12 hours. So if they take 4 credit, they block out 12 hours. 5 credit, block 15 hours from the paper. And then ask them block out 24 hours, 30 hours out of classroom. Because 6 hours per course means total like 24 hours of blocking. And then 56 hours for sleeping. Because if we give 8 hours sleep, then they block for 56 hours, block it. And then what? 10 hours for commuting, right? Commuting, eating, making a pretty shower, having breakfast, maybe 10 hours. And then those who work, a lot of students have part-time jobs. Maybe 5 hours part-time and then 40 hours per week is part-time job or some kind of other activities. They block all those hours. And then they have, I still have me these hours left. If you take 4 classes, you have 26 hours left for socializing, meeting friends, having a coffee, or whatever. Well, if you have 5 courses, 5 courses and 15 credits per week, they still have 17 hours left. This is how we help out. One of the ways that we help out our students and manage time. So outside the classroom activities is doable. Yes, very much doable. And by doing it, one class, 135 hours per semester, make you a highly developed professional to the course. So I have this paper helps you. It helps me. Now, I don't have only 5 minutes, 4 minutes left. If you like to have the slide, you can ask CLT. They have slide PPT. Now, if we have any question or comments, I have to stop here and let you go. But before you go, any question or comments? Yes.
It was very well presented. There was a
Very
lot
well.
to learn, although we know many things, but there is always a room for improvement, and I think we have improved.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. No other comments, or then you can go, please. Yes.
I want to say that it was very systematic, very well organized, and it helped us reorganize our generally scattered ideas.
Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. You may go in peace. Thank you very much.